What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video from Pink Tourmaline, and this is going to be my final video on the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I finished it this morning and gathered my final excerpts. And with the help of ChatGPT, which has been so helpful with this, I'm going to try and showcase a number of excerpts and also I've utilized ChatGPT to help me explain and break down what the significance of these excerpts are. And what's really cool is it's done so in the context of the idea of the soul trap and this whole paradigm that I'm kind of um, favoring right now as a potential theory for what we are in as of now on this planet and in this existence. But yeah, so without further ado, let's get into this final chapter here, final installment. Okay. So in this last section that I read, they talk a lot about consciousness transference, and it's basically these different stages, these different portions of death, and how you can effectively escape cyclic existence, basically reincarnation. And one of the ways they call this the consciousness transference into Buddha body. So what that means is this is basically the idea that at death or in the after death state, the person's ordinary consciousness can be redirected away from confusion, fear, rebirth, attachment, and instead merge with enlightened awareness. In the Tibetan Buddhism, this is closely related to Phawa or consciousness transference. The core idea, your consciousness does not have to blindly drift into the next rebirth. With training, recognition, or guidance, it can be transferred into a purified, enlightened state symbolized as a Buddha body. So now we're going to go directly to the text. It says, now if one person who has some understanding of inner radiance, who has cultivated the view of emptiness and encountered it directly in one's own awareness, the consciousness transference into Buddha body of reality is the supreme method. Thus, when this is undertaken, one should first ensure, as above, that one is completely without a single possession, which could generate attachment or aversion. There's another section where it's going to talk more about attachment and aversion and how they can be pitfalls. If one is capable, one should secure one's body in the 7 postures of Vairocana or sit upright. If this is not possible, one should lie on one side with the head pointing north and repeatedly think, now that I'm about to die, how fortunate am I to be able to affect the transference of consciousness based on a profound instruction such as this, while in 3 realms of cyclic existence in general and in particular in this degenerate age. It's talking about the positioning of the body. And we've heard multiple people talk about the importance of the positioning of the body. I've also heard people say that the position doesn't matter, like Isabella Green, and say it's more important how you exit the body. You must exit from the crown. So just food for thought there. Interesting things to ponder. So today I shall now recognize the inner radiance of death to be the Buddha body of reality, and consequently take birth as an inestimable number of emanations in order to guide each accord with his or her needs. I must act on behalf of sentient beings until cyclic existence has been emptied. Of course, if you guys are new to this series on the Tibetan Book of the Dead, cyclic existence, that's reincarnating over and over into this existence. In this way, generate the altruistic intention to attain enlightenment for the benefits of others fervently and repeatedly. Then one should think undistractedly as follows. I must attend to the words of my spiritual teacher and must act in accordance with the content of the profound teachings which I formerly received. The whole point is that one should not be distracted from a state in which the oral instructions are clearly held in mind. Okay. Now, in the case of those who have not recognized intrinsic awareness and who are without experience and realization, though they may well try to apply this consciousness transference into the Buddha body of reality, this would be ineffectual. So this is saying for people who don't have that full awareness, for it, that can achieved in these multitude of ways, then this process, you're not going to be able to pull it off. It would be like trying to show a material object to someone who has been blind from birth, or like trying to point out a particular star to a dog. It is very important, therefore, that the method of consciousness transference and the manner of its clarification correspond to the mental capacity of the individual. And I wonder, when they say mental capacity, do they mean IQ, which I don't think they mean, but I think probably what we might call level of awareness or vibration. Okay, this next section is wild, because this next section has to do with the notion that the bright white light that we see, that is described in so many NDEs, that is actually part of the trap that leads us into this fake astral plane where we get the life reviews that are manipulations and so on and so forth. But the interesting thing here is it doesn't say to be afraid, look out for the light, avoid the light at all costs. It says be discerning. There is a light to be avoided and a light to be followed. It's really, really interesting. And there's actually multiple sections. I've only chosen one chunk of excerpts, but there's multiple sections that talk about different colored lights. And honestly, it's a lot for me to get my head around all of it. And the different, because some of the different lights occur at different phases, like a yellow light here, a blue light here, a green light here. But I think this captures the overall essence of the idea that it's not that you have to watch out for all lights in general, but you have to be able to discern the correct light to follow. So let me read this, and then I'm going to give the ChatGPT summary as well, which will help clarify. O child of Buddha nature, you should have moved on without recognition after having been unconscious for up to 3.5 days. You will awaken from unconsciousness and wonder what has happened to me. So recognize this to be the intermediate state. Again, if you're unfamiliar, intermediate state is that period after death, before birth. At this time, the aspects of the cycles of existence are reversed into their own nature, and all phenomena are arising as light and Buddha bodies. On the first day of the intermediate state of reality, all space will arise as a blue light. At this time, from the central Buddha field called the pervasive seminal point, the transcendent Lord Vorkana will dawn before you, his body white in color, seated on a lion throne, holding in his right hand an 8-spoked wheel, and embraced by his consort, Akasad Hatvisvari. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. A blue luminosity, radiant and clear, bright and dazzling, indicative of the pristine cognition of reality's expanse, which is the natural purity of your aggregate consciousness, will emanate from the heart of Vairocana and his consort, and it will shine piercingly before you at the level of your heart with such brilliance that your eyes cannot bear it. Okay, so it's so brilliant your eyes cannot bear it. Together with this luminosity, a dull white light indicative of the realm of the gods will also dawn directly before you and touch your heart. At this time, under the sway of negative past actions, you will wish to flee in fear and terror from the bright blue light, which is the pristine cognition of reality's expanse, and you will come to perceive the dull white light of the god realms with delight. I mean, this sounds like the white light that people are talking about. It is kind of crazy. But I also have to be careful because I'm looking for certain things in this text that align with the paradigm that I'm kind of favoring right now. And I know that. So I have to be a little bit careful not to get too excited or think too much into these types of connections. So it is interesting, but I'm proceeding with cautiously. At this moment, do not be awed by the blue luminosity, which is radiant and dazzling, clear and very bright. This is the supreme inner radiance of pristine cognition. Do not be terrified. This is the light ray of Tathagata, which is called the pristine cognition of reality's expanse. Have confidence in it. Okay, so don't be afraid of the light in general. You have to figure out which is the right light. So ChatGPT breaks it down beautifully. This section is one of the most soul trap relevant parts of the Tibetan Book of the Dead because it describes the after-death state as a moment where consciousness is presented with two compelling poles, a terrifying, radiant, liberating light, right? Terror could be scary, and a dull, comforting, karmic light leading back into conditioned existence. I did say the realm of the gods, so I think it means go back into the astral, and then you go back into this conditioned existence. The text is basically saying after death, when you awaken in the Bardo, that's the intermediate state, reality begins appearing not as solid physical matter, but as lights, Buddha bodies, visions, and energetic realms. The danger is that the soul consciousness may misread the liberating light as threatening and the lower light as safe. Wild. The after-death test is not just whether you see a light, it is whether you can discern what kind of light it is. That is a huge distinction. A lot of modern NDE or soul trap discussions say don't go into the light, but the Tibetan Book of the Dead is more nuanced. It is not saying all light is bad. It is saying that there are different lights. Some are liberating, some lead into rebirth, and consciousness has to recognize the difference. It's wild, wild stuff. Okay, next, the light ray hook of compassion. This is the light ray hook of Ratnasambhava's compassion. Be devoted to it. Do not delight in the dull blue light of the human realm. The dull light is the inviting path created by your own habitual tendencies for deep-seated pride, which you yourself have generated. If you become attached to it, you will tumble down into the human realm. You will experience the suffering of birth, old age, sickness, and death, and there will be no immediate opportunity to escape from the swamp of cyclic existence. This dull light is an obstacle block in the path to liberation. Do not look at it. Abandon pride, abandon your habitual tendencies. Do not be attached to the dull blue light. Do not cling to it. Be devoted to the yellow light, golden and dazzling. See, now another color light. This is what I was talking about before. Focus intently on single-mindedly on the transcendent Lord Ratnasbhava and recite the following aspirational prayer. By the way, I think the different colored lights are occurring at different phases in the Bardo process. Like you have, and there's going to be a section coming forward, which is going to show these like 3 different opportunities where you can escape cyclic existence and ascend to, essentially you could call it enlightenment or Buddha. What do they call it? Buddha body mind. But anyways, basically escape cyclic existence. So it could be different colored lights at these different phases. All right. So this is the summary that was generated for that excerpt. The dull blue light here is described as the inviting path created by your own habitual tendencies for deep-seated pride. The dull light is not presented as random. It is generated by the person's own karmic patterning, specifically pride, ego, self-importance, and identity. The text says if that the consciousness becomes attached to this dull blue light, you will tumble down into the human realm. That means rebirth. And although Buddhism generally considers human birth precious compared to lower realms, it is still part of the wheel of samsara, which David Icke talks about. You still return to birth, aging, sickness, death, confusion, attachment, and suffering. All right. Next section. Recognize your inner radiance. In summary, if individuals recognize the inner radiance during the intermediate state of the time of death, they will attain the Buddha body of reality. When they say inner radiance, I wonder if they mean this, Pink Tourmaline, self-love. I haven't seen that phrase anywhere. And again, this is me maybe wanting to believe, but I just feel like there's so much significance in this crystal that I wear around my neck and the name of this channel. I wonder. If they achieve recognition during this intermediate state of reality, when the visions of the peaceful and wrathful deities arise, they will attain the Buddha body of perfect resource. If they achieve recognition during the intermediate state of rebirth, see, it's talking about the different phases. So it's intermediate state of the time of death, then the intermediate state of rebirth. Oh, I skipped one. Intermediate state of reality, then intermediate state of rebirth. They will attain the Buddha body of emanation. Alternatively, at the very least, individuals who have heard this teaching will be born into higher existences, where based on the residual potency of their past actions, they will again meet with and be able to practice the sacred teaching in the next life. So it's like you have your 3 potential exit points, and if you miss all of those, but you still have heard this teaching, you can come back and be reincarnated into a higher existence, which will give you another chance and a better, improved chance to once again escape. That's my reading of it. Now, this is the summary boiled down by ChatGPT. Recognition at the time of death. This is the Buddha body of reality. If individuals recognize the inner radiance during the intermediate state at the time of death, they will attain the Buddha body of reality. Recognition during visions, Buddha body of perfect resource. If they achieve recognition during this intermediate state of reality, when the visions of the peaceful and wrathful deities arise, they will attain the Buddha body of perfect resource. And then lastly, recognition during the rebirth Bardo, Buddha body of emanation. If they achieve recognition during the intermediate state of rebirth, they will attain the Buddha body of emanation. Now, I don't know if these are considered to be different levels, like one's higher than the other, or they're just different names based on when you achieve Buddha body. I feel it's the latter. I don't think there's actually any description of various levels of ascension based on when you exit, but that's my guess. Okay, now we get to the section where they talk about the dangers of aversions and attachments. It may be that you're about to take birth in the higher realms, yet at the time when the perceptions of the higher realms occur, your living relatives, now behind, are sacrificing and offering many animals on your behalf. dedicating this activity to you, the deceased. Corrupted perceptions will thus arise, and consequently, an intense aversion may well up within you. And this will form a connecting link to a birth in the hell realms. Therefore, whatever activities occur in the place that you have left behind, meditate on loving kindness and ensure that aversion does not arise. What I interpret that to mean is in those last few moments of death, you want to keep your vibration high. You want to stay positive, and you don't want to have these aversions or negative thoughts based on things happening on this earth arise, because that will keep you tied back to this realm. Alternatively, your mind may grow attached to your wealth and your possessions now left behind, or else knowing that your wealth and possessions are being enjoyed and owned by others. You may become both attached and to those worldly goods and also hateful towards those left behind. As a result of this, connecting link will certainly be formed to a birth amongst the hell beings or amongst the anguished spirits. Even though you may have been at the point of attaining birth in one of the higher realms, however attached you may be to the wealth now left behind, you do not have the ability to enjoy it. Since it is absolutely of no use to you, abandon your attachment and yearning for the wealth that you have left behind. See, what's interesting about this is I was talking the other day about Isabella Green's video and how she said that you can live your life and enjoy your life here. You don't have to go meditate. I'm paraphrasing here, but you don't have to go meditate next to on a mountain for your entire life in order to achieve liberation. But instead, she more focuses on the way that the practices that you engage in while you're alive to kind of train your mind and your spirit to leave correctly when it's time to go. And this seems to mesh with that you can have goods or items or things, but as we approach death, we want to sever those attachments. And it just kind of makes sense. It's just like having an anchor tied down, and then you're trying to hit the gas and take off, and it's not going to work. And maybe it's safer ultimately to have less attachments in general. So you have less attachments to sever at the time of death. So maybe that might make the detachment process easier. But I think that is potentially the takeaway message that, again, however attached you may be to the wealth now left behind, you do not have the ability to enjoy it. So you must abandon your attachment and yearning once you get to that point. Interesting. Let it go. Be decisive. Regardless of who is enjoying your wealth, do not be possessive. Let it go. Cultivate devotion and imagine that you are offering these worldly possessions to your spiritual teacher and to the three precious jewels. Rest in a state free from attachment and free from clinging. So again, the text is saying, if you are in the Bardo, intermediate state, and you become filled with rage, judgment, hatred, or aversion, that will bring you to a lower state. So it says, whatever people are doing after your death, do not generate hatred, generate loving kindness instead. And then it says, however attached you may be to the wealth now left behind. Let me go back to this real quick. There's an interesting distinction here, by the way, when they're saying, let it go, do not generate hatred, generate loving kindness instead. I think sometimes, myself included, we think that we need to be loving and kind, especially in like mainstream religions, possibly because if not, we'll be judged. And it's like the way it's positioned here is not a judgment. It sounds more of like an energetic thing, that those negative emotions are just anchors tying you back into the cyclic existence. Whereas the lighter emotions, the lighter frequencies, the lighter vibrations are going to allow you to be free, to not be anchored down, and to escape. So it's almost like a matter of physics is the way I'm interpreting it. Okay, then the passage says, however attached you may be to the wealth, do not have the ability. This is a blunt instruction. Once you are dead, these possessions are no longer useful to you. Clinging to them only harms you. The main teaching, let it go. There it is. Now we're getting to a point in the text where they talk about, let's say you've missed those first two exit points, and now you're about to enter a womb. So these are the instructions if you're coming to this point where you might be entering a womb, aka coming back into the rebirth cycle. O child of Buddha nature, if due to the potency of your past actions, you must at this stage enter a womb, a further teaching on the methods of choosing a womb entrance is now to be taught. Listen carefully, therefore. Do not just move towards whatever womb entrance appears to you. If whilst being pursued by the avenging forces of the laws cause and effect, you are powerless, unable to resist the process of entering a womb, then you must at this time meditate on Hayagriva. Since you now possess a subtle supernormal cognitive ability, you will clearly apprehend all the potential birthplaces as they arise in sequence. Therefore, make your choice based on the examination of the indications and based on the instructions. There are two kinds of oral instruction which can now be applied. First, the oral instructions for transferring the consciousness to the pure Buddha field. And second, the instructions for choosing a womb entrance within impure cyclic existence. So I think the first they're saying is there are instructions to still escape and achieve Buddha body. But then the second would be, okay, how do you choose a womb entrance? Okay, so this section teaches that once consciousness reaches the rebirth Bardo, it may begin seeing potential womb entrances or future birthplaces. The text warns not to move blindly towards the first attractive or compelling opening. Even if karmic forces are pushing the being toward incarnation, the consciousness still has some agency and heightened perception. The highest instruction is to transfer consciousness to a pure Buddha field, right? And the fallback is to choose a womb carefully within the wheel of samsara. In soul trap terms, this is a direct warning against unconscious reincarnation. And then I'm trying to also blend this with what I've read in Journey of Souls, if we take that to be factual. Because there, what's described is not just you're by yourself moving towards the womb. There's more of a staging area. There's more of a discussion. But again, the two they are not mutually exclusive. It may not be talking about the collaborative effort to get you into a particular life. But that still could be a part of this narrative. And I think the overarching message is, if you do get sucked back into the cycle and are forced to reincarnate, like, don't just blindly go where you're told to go in terms of reincarnation. Hey, you're told you need to learn this or you need to learn that. Like, take some agency and choose accordingly and position yourself in a way such that escape could be had after the next reincarnation cycle. It's interesting. It's very interesting. It's just so much to think about. Next section, weak inheritance of positive actions. However, those who have a weak inheritance of positive past actions, those who are greatly clouded by negative obscuration, and those who are burdened by the most non-virtuous past actions will be obliged to roam downwards into the intermediate state of rebirth. Here as before, since there are different levels of introduction, like the rungs of a ladder, recognition will occur, if not at one stage, then in another, and thereby liberation will follow. So now for the summary, some beings, because of weak positive karma, heavy confusion, or strong negative conditioning, will not be able to stabilize awareness in the earlier stages after that. They will miss the higher openings and be pulled downward into intermediate state of rebirth. But even there's still multiple chances to recognize what is happening and become liberated. The one thing here that I think a lot of people, even David Icke included, will disagree with is this idea of karma even being a thing. But again, it may not be the way that we think about it. Again, it could be this idea of negative actions. Not like you have to undo the negative actions in the way that it's usually described. But again, it could be a frequency thing. It could be an anchoring thing where these negative actions are sort of like your when you rub a piece of metal with a magnet, and you can kind of rearrange the orientation. I don't remember exactly how magnetism works, but you can kind of make it more magnetic, right? You rub it, and then it's like kind of magnetized. And so maybe it's more of a thing like that, where negative actions change your polarity in such a way that you're more negative, and that's like more anchored into the earth. And so it's more difficult to leave. So it's not that you have to now be punished for all the things that you did, or you know what I mean, and it has to be a balance. But it's just like doing these negative things, or lying, or being deceptive, or hurting people. It changes your frequency, so it makes you heavier, makes you less able to pull away. Again, these are just thoughts. Again, I gotta ask. I need to. There's so many people I need to interview. When I'm interviewing Tony Sayers next week, I want to talk to him about all of these ideas. Okay, harmful actions create momentum. What a pity it is that we carry the alternative burden of negativity and bring sufferings upon ourselves. The hunters in the mountains, the fishermen by the rivers, and those who kill domestic livestock will transmigrate and be reborn into the 18 hells. Like what is? I want to know what this means too. This idea of they talk about hell. I know this is a translation. I don't think that there's any sort of eternal damnation type of paradigm that's like in Christianity or Islam. I'm pretty sure that's not a thing, but I wonder what does it mean? It just means like the lower realms where there's more suffering, but a place that you can still escape, I assume. Those who engage in deceit and deception, having adulterated measures and weights, and those who steal, plunder, or deceive will long roam through the three inferior existences. Long roam, so not forever, I guess. Those bound to their wealth by the knot of miserliness, those who squander the property of others, and those who appropriate donations made to the three precious jewels will long roam through the realms of anguish spirits. The impact of non-virtuous past actions is like a thunderbolt. It is extremely powerful. And even though we feel remorse, it will be of no help. We will not be able to escape it, even if we feel remorse. Interesting. The punishment for negative actions is exacted by Yama. In this dangerous passageway traversed by all, the executors of Yama's rights bring us to trial. Pity those human beings who do not avoid negativity, for there is no way to help them. That sounds harsh. No way to help them. For how severe is the attitude of Dharmaraja? How precise is the accounting of the deity and demon of conscious? How remorseful are the great wrongdoers? Like this sounds very much like a Quran passage to me. It's like there's so many of these passages over and over and over in the sections of the Quran that I've read where it's just like constant threats and stuff like that. Anyways, I've read this whole excerpt like a couple times, and I forgot how kind of fear mongering it is, I guess. Okay, then here's the little summary that I pulled. This passage is a warning that harmful actions create powerful karmic momentum that can drag consciousness into lower realms after death. Yama or Dharmaraja represents the judgment force of karma and conscience. The trial imagery suggests that nothing is hidden. One's actions are precisely known and their effects must be faced. Okay, so that kind of goes against what I was theorizing before, that maybe it's not a balancing thing. It's more of a shift of polarity type of thing. But then I don't know, this section and this summary. Hold on, let me read this again. Judgment force. Yeah, judgment. So it is a judgment thing. Force of karma. And again, this is the ChatGPT interpretation. This could also be incorrect from the original meaning. In soul trap terms, this shows that the reincarnation lower realm mechanism is not only external deception, it is also the dead person's own karmic burden, guilt, craving, violence, and attachment becoming the forces that determine where consciousness goes next. So again, this could be coming from within. This could mesh once again with that idea of it more being just anchors as opposed to some external judgment coming from outside. I don't know. Yeah. That's something that I'm going to have to think about and research more. But anyways, there it is, guys. That's my final section on the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Very interesting read. I'd probably have to read it again, maybe even 2 more times to really extract everything and really, really, really deep dive. I'm sure there are things that I missed that if I read it again, I'd catch. But it was definitely a difficult read. But I think there were some fascinating tidbits that I was able to extract on, again, with the help of ChatGPT. That was really, really cool to pump it in there to help me break down some of those more convoluted passages. Fascinating stuff. And I was guided to read this, I feel like, by everybody talking about a lot of the connections with the soul trap idea or soul trick ideas, Tony Sayer calls it. And it did not disappoint. So upwards and onwards to new books and new sources of information. Let me know, guys, in the comments if you have any more recommendations for things for me to read. I got about like 20 books at my house right now that I have to get going on. I just bought a couple books I bought like 3 of Tony Sayer's books. So I'm going to be reading those next, of course, since I'm interviewing him next week. So that obviously must be done. And that's all I got for you guys. It is 2:30 in the morning, but I had to get a video done today. So I stayed up at a really, 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 really long day. But I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.